People who have stories they want to share, but have not found a question relevant to them. What are your stories? I once gave the singer Meat Loaf 2 very awkward handshakes. This was obviously a few years back, when both conventions and handshakes were a thing. Meat Loaf arrived at his booth, and the first thing he did was go down his line to personally shake hands with everyone there. Unexpectedly, Meat Loaf was offering handshakes with his left hand, and me being a righty, when it came time for me to shake his hand my brain had a meltdown of what to do, so instead of also using my left hand to shake his hand, I extended both hands and awkwardly cupped his. I knew I messed up, so I didn't commit to the awkward hand cupping. So on top of it being awkward, it was also loose, and if there's one thing that makes handshakes worse, it's when they are weirdly limp. He then went to his booth, began signing autographs, and eventually I made my way to the front. I got my autograph, and once again he offered his left hand to shake. This second handshake was slightly better than my first, in that this time I only extended one hand, my right, which I then noticed and went oh, and then finally successfully offered my left hand. He shook it, and I went on my merry way with my autograph and a new story to tell. Very nice man, was very friendly to his fans, and never once brought up my inability to give a proper handshake to a left hand. I would blame Meat Loaf. Who the hell offers a left-handed handshake? Seriously. I'm left-handed and I always shake with the right. It feels goddamn weird with the left. I haven't told this story in a while, but Uber Eats scammed me out of $2K and ruined my 20th birthday LMAO. It was pretty much my first birthday where I was on my own and didn't celebrate with my family at all, since I was a 5-hour drive away at college. It also fell on a Tuesday, so I wasn't able to do anything with friends either. The plan was to grab dinner at an Indian place that Friday to celebrate. I got out of class early, and my only celebration was to order some IHOP through the Uber Eats app. It was like my third time using it. Anyway, I got some chicken tenders for $16, then took a 5-hour nap. Real exciting. I woke up at around 8 PM. After all the food places on campus closed. So I figured, peep it, it's my birthday. Let's order out twice. So I tried to get some chicken nugs from McDonald's delivered. I press confirm order. The page loads. And I get an error. Okay, strange. Let's try again. Another error. One more. I Google the error code and see that it pops up whenever a card gets declined. That can't be right. The meal costs like 13, and at this time, I have about 1K on my bank account. For anyone who has a student wallet through PNC, you know that it's basically 3 accounts in one. You have a checking account and 2 savings accounts that are all linked to each other. As a broke college student, this was quite literally all I had to survive on. So I check my bank. Every account was cleared out. 0. 0 across the board. I had over 30 different pending transactions, all from Uber Eats. They ranged from 99 cents to 104, going until every account was emptied. I was sitting at about -600 by the time I checked. So obviously, I'm freaking TF out. My bank was closed, so I couldn't call them. I hit the Uber Eats customer service. They ask me to list every transaction, which I do. They confirm the transactions came from them. Then, the agent tells me that these are just "temporary holds" that they always do, and the money won't actually leave my account. Okay. But over 30 transactions? I spend hours trying to figure out what exactly went wrong in their system. And each agent keeps giving me the same copy and pasted response. The charges won't post to your account. Just wait. The thing is, with debit cards, they treat pending transactions as if the money is already off your card, so I couldn't use my money at all. I was helpless. The next morning, I called my bank. As soon as they opened, my card was cancelled, and they had to dispute each charge. There was so many of them that they couldn't all fit under one report, and had to be split into 3. Usually when you dispute a transaction, the bank gives you a "provisional credit", which is a temporary refund of your money. They could only provisionally refund me on one case report, which still left me at about -150. I would have to wait the 2 months until the investigation ended until I would get the rest of my money back. Oh, and guess what? The money did leave my account. Not only that, but I was hit for 10 overdraft fees for 35 each for all the ones that bounced. And when I went back to Uber Eats about this, they kept repeating the same message that the transactions wouldn't post. They already posted. That entire week was a mess. I was stranded at college with literally no money. My family struggles enough, and my mom had to skip a few bills to send me cash through Monogram. I couldn't have money come through my bank account because it would eaten from all the fees I had accrued. I even cancelled the get together that Friday, though we were able to go in the end. Happy birthday to me. Peep Uber Eats. I had a similar situation with my bank and PayPal. I moved out of the US and was trying to transfer my $700 PayPal balance to one link to my new bank. The transaction kept declining over and over and said to wait 5 days or whatever. Long story short, I missed the tiny print that said PayPal transactions from one account to another could only be done at a maximum of 500 at a time, and anything above that would instead try to take it from my linked debit account, which I had already emptied. So I just ended up doing it in 2 separate transactions. However, every time they attempted to grab the $700 from my debit card, my bank processed a 5 failed transaction fee, which ended up putting me in overdraft and charging me daily for it. By the time I found out, I think I was at like -245. While living in a country where my monthly salary was about $400, I contacted my bank, and their response was, "We understand these are hard times, and we can split the payment into 12 monthly payments and we will void the first one as a courtesy." And my reply was, "Nope, not paying a cent. That's a made-up debt I never used. Literally just a number entered into your computer. As far as I'm concerned, I owe you nothing." I never contacted them again, logged into my account, or acknowledged any of their emails. I can only imagine how high that debt got. My mom living in Texas got calls at home. She just said I didn't live there anymore and was sent overseas. This was in the mid-2000s, so they probably assumed I was in Iraq and likely died or something. It's been 15 years and the bank was bought out by Chase, so I assume my account is cleared now. I remember when they started doing the dumb overdraft protection. I specifically told my bank that I didn't want it. If I don't have the money in my account, then I don't want it to process. Somehow my account went in the negative by a couple of dollars. I didn't notice because at the time I was a server and I would pay all of my bills in cash. They waited 30 days to tell me that I was in the negative and they had been charging me about $8 a day as a fee. I just walked away and never paid them. I love my backpack. It's nothing fancy, just a bog standard Element rucksack. But I picked it out, and it's like the only fashion brand article I own. I remember the kids in my middle school flipping out over Element gear back in the day, so it brings back fond memories. Anyway, a couple of years ago I was backpacking/road tripping across Canada. We stopped at Hope, BC, for a bite to eat, before continuing on to Kelowna where we had booked accommodation for a couple of nights. I don't quite remember how, but when we arrived around 9 PM and unpacked the car, I couldn't find my backpack, bearing in mind this had everything in it: passport, house keys, iPad, Canadian currency, my favorite sweatshirt, phone charger. I figured the worst, that we had forgotten to lock the car while in the cafe/diner and someone had yoinked it, because I couldn't remember bringing it with me into the shop. I did not get a lot of sleep that night. The next day I called the diner, just in case I had forgotten it inside. The nicest girl answered the phone and said that yes, there was a backpack there. I asked could she send it out to Kelowna and just take whatever it cost out of the cash envelope in the bag. She agreed immediately to send it out that evening, and I hung up, relieved. Unfortunately, being a weekend, it didn't arrive before we were due to leave the area on a 7-day camping trip through Alberta down the Icefields Parkway. So I asked the Airbnb owner if they could send my backpack onto our next stop in Calgary. to a Raps drop-off point or whatever, and again just help themselves to some cash. She agreed, and I left on a week-long trip with no signal, camping in the Rockies. It was a great week. I almost forgot that I was missing just about everything I would have needed to get home to Europe. I remember finally understanding what Bilbo says in The Lord of the Rings. I want to see mountains again. Gandalf. Mountains. And then find somewhere where I can rest. I still wish I could go back there and do it all over. Leaving Banff though, I came back down to earth with a bump. We got to Calgary for on Canada Day, so everything was closed, which meant another night of worrying, but the next day I was first in line at the Ups store to pick up my parcel. It was such a relief seeing the familiar shade of burgundy when I opened it up, and everything was there, minus about 40 in shipping costs. Whenever I look at my bag, I remember how nice people can be when you just ask for help. They went out of their way to help an idiot stranger get his bag back, and I remember all the more vividly that wonderful trip through an amazing country. I really thought the ending of the story was going to be, and it wasn't my backpack. But I just had it shipped twice across the country, and a bunch of cash taken from it. So I figured, might as well keep it. Me too.